The wind moved softly across the open fields of Willow Creek as dawn touched the sky. And Samuel Hale, the shy young farmer who spoke more to his soil than to his neighbors, stepped out of his small wooden cabin. His life was the kind people called quiet. Sunrise in the fields, sunset in the barn, and a lingering loneliness he never tried to name. But everything changed the morning he found faint tracks around his barn, prints too light for a ranch hand and too precise for a thief. With cautious steps, he opened the barn door only to freeze. The dim light revealed an Apache woman huddled behind hay bales, bleeding from an arrow graze on her arm, her dark hair tangled, her expression both frightened and fierce. Samuel had heard the town's fearful stories about tribes, but the truth staring back at him was simply a wounded human being. When she tried to stand, she stumbled, and Samuel, despite being painfully shy and terrified of saying the wrong thing, stepped forward with trembling hands, offering help. The woman hesitated, but exhaustion defeated caution, and she allowed him to lift her up onto a blanket. He whispered that she was safe, though his voice shook as though unsure. Over the next hours, as he cleaned her wound with care clumsy enough to make her smile faintly, she told him her name was Ayana. She had been separated from her people after an ambush near the borderlands. Samuel listened more than he spoke, his gentle silence becoming a strange form of comfort. He brought her food, stitched her wound, and covered the barn windows with cloth so no one would see her. Whenever he heard riders on the road, his heart pounded in fear, not fear of Ayana, but fear of what the town would do if they found her. Days passed, and in those quiet hours between sunrise chores and moonlit whispers, Samuel felt something unfamiliar growing inside him. Courage, connection, maybe love, though he didn't yet dare name it. Ayana, too, saw something rare in him, a man who treated her not as a legend or a danger, but as a person worthy of respect. She taught him a few words of her language, laughing softly whenever he mispronounced them, and he found himself wanting to make her laugh more, but reality arrived sooner than they wished. One stormy evening, as Samuel fed the horses, Ayana told him she could not stay. Her people would be searching. Her tribe needed her. Samuel felt the world sink beneath him, yet he nodded, pretending strength he didn't feel. He saddled a horse, wrapped supplies, and led her to the old forest trail hidden behind his fields. Under the pale moon she paused, touched his hand gently and thanked him, not with words alone, but with a look that said she had never known kindness like his in such a lonely place. He watched her ride into the night, unaware that she looked back several times, her heart tugged by the man she was leaving behind. For days afterward, Samuel returned to the barn as though expecting her to reappear like a dream he wasn't ready to wake from. He couldn't explain the ache inside him, or why the world felt quieter now that she was gone. All he knew was that something in him had changed forever. And though he returned to his work, to the silence that had once been his companion, he carried the memory of her like a flame hidden in winter. What he did not know was that Ayana's departure was not the end of their story. It was only the pause before a storm of fate he never imagined. A storm that would arrive not with violence, but with a proposal that would shake the quiet, farmer's life to its core. 3 weeks passed. Long enough for winter frost to silver the fields, and long enough for Samuel to convince himself that Ayana was only a brief miracle in a life destined for silence. But one morning, when the sun was barely stretching over the horizon, the ground trembled beneath a rhythm he hadn't heard since boyhood. Hooves, dozens of them moving in perfect formation. Samuel's heart slammed in his chest as he stepped out of his cabin, half expecting trouble, half fearing hope. And then he saw them cresting the hill like shadows of legend. Wrapped in morning gold, Apache riders, men and women alike, strong, steady, proud. At their front rode Ayana, healed, regal, and shining with a confidence that stole the breath from his lungs. The entire valley seemed to hold its breath as they approached his farm, their horses slowing, their eyes fixed on him with unreadable intent. Samuel, trembling but refusing to retreat, stepped toward them. Ayana dismounted first and crossed the space between them with a soft smile that warmed the cold morning. She told him her people had listened to her story, the story of a timid farmer who hid her in his barn at great personal risk, who treated her with dignity, who asked for nothing in return. In her tribe, honor had weight, and kindness had consequence. Her chief, an elder with fierce eyes softened by wisdom, rode forward and addressed Samuel through Ayana's translation. Her people wished to honor the man who had protected her, and they did not arrive in anger. They arrived with gratitude. But gratitude was only the beginning. Ayana stepped closer, her hands trembling slightly as she lifted a small woven token, an intricate band, decorated with her tribe's colors. It was not merely a gift, it was symbolic. It was a proposal. Her people asked for his hand in marriage, not as a prize, not as obligation, but as a union of respect between two worlds. Samuel nearly forgot how to breathe. Marriage. Him, a quiet man who could barely speak his feelings aloud. Yet when he looked at Ayana, he felt the truth rise like the sun behind her. She had returned, not because she needed safety, but because she wanted him. He tried to speak, stuttering through nerves that made Ayana laugh warmly as she took his hands in hers. The chief awaited his answer, and Samuel, shy as he was, found a boldness that had slept inside him for years. He accepted, not with loud words or grand gestures, but with sincerity deep enough to shake him. The tribe celebrated right there in his fields, their voices rising in song that blended with the winter wind. They honored Samuel with beads, blankets, and blessings, and the shy farmer, who once lived in silence, found himself surrounded by a new family. Ayana told him that in her language, his name now carried a second meaning, the one who shelters. In the weeks that followed, the tribe helped Samuel rebuild his barn, strengthen his fences, and prepare for a winter feast that marked not only their union, but the joining of cultures. Samuel learned that courage wasn't loud, it was quiet, consistent, and born from kindness. Ayana learned that love could bloom in the most unexpected souls. Their story spread across the region, not as a tale of conflict, but as one of unity. And as the two of them stood beneath the winter stars on the night of their marriage, Samuel realized that the life he once thought small had expanded into something vast and beautiful. Their love became the kind of legend whispered around fires, proof that destiny sometimes arrives not with war cries, but with soft footsteps across a barn floor and a heart brave enough to open its doors. And if you've listened this far, dear viewer, remember that stories like this live on because of people like you. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, because more powerful Western tales, emotional journeys, and unforgettable legends are waiting just for you.